Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host, and today we're going to be doing the April News and AMA Ask Me Anything episode of Pod Save Chocolate. What that means is if you have a question, anything to do with cocoa or chocolate, and you'd like to ask it to me over the course of the coming hour, just go into the live chat in YouTube or the comments in LinkedIn or Facebook and ask the question. Now, it can be a question about anything that you want to ask me about, or it could be a question or comment about something that I might have mentioned over the course of this episode of News and AMA. And with that, we're just going to jump quickly into the episode after, some short housekeeping announcement. The first housekeeping announcement of this episode of Pod Save Chocolate is sponsored by the members of the Chocolate Life. This is the homepage of the Chocolate Life right now. If you are not currently a member and you'd like to support the work that you're doing, you can click on the join button. And as you can see, there's a free membership tier that you can support. And if you have the wherewithal to support financially, it's not a requirement. Obviously, that support starts at as little as $5 per month. And any support, even or especially just joining for free, is going to help what it is that we're doing, what it is that I'm doing here at the Chocolate Life. And with that, let's go to the post for today's episode. This is the post for today's episode, and I do a post for every episode of Pod Save Chocolate. There's an archive of them up here. If you click on the word archives up here, you can see it'll take you to a page where previous episodes are in fact archived. So it's pretty cool that you can go and look at all those things, but we're going to focus on today's episode. And again, if you have a question or comment about anything that might be going on here, go into the live chat on YouTube, the comments on LinkedIn or Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, do all the things to help spread news about the channel and bring attention to the YouTube algorithmi. That would be really, really great. Thank you very much. So let's just get into the first thing that we're going to be talking about today, which is what I do as a part of every episode for the News and AMA episode, is take a look at the ongoing saga of the cost of cocoa. Here is what this barchart.com, here's what the futures prices of cocoa are. And you can take a look that right now it's hovering, today's cash price per metric ton of cocoa on a contract container sized is going to be about $3,200 a metric ton. You can go and from the link on the right, you can go and let me, rather than selecting everything, select this and look at the price history. And you can find out what the price history of cocoa has been for the little while. And you see that it's hovering, around $3,200 a ton right now. And it's been, you can look at what it's been for the last couple of months here. And there's a summary up here, the 1 month when it's hit the new lows and new highs over the course of things. Why do you want to do this? Why is it important? So if you're a chocolate maker, your primary ingredient, I'm hoping your primary ingredient, is cocoa. And you probably want to put into your weekly routine on a Monday, on a Friday, whenever it's going to be, or is to take a quick look at what the price of cocoa is doing to help you prepare, to help you take a look at where the price is going and how are you going to put together some sort of plan to help you be able to buy the cocoa that you need to purchase. And not just the cocoa, but any derivative products that you might be doing. You might need cocoa butter, cocoa powder, whatever it is that you might be purchasing if you're working with liquor, whatever it is going to be. Just have an understanding, just ear to the ground sort of knowledge and understanding about where the price of cocoa is doing, just through a quick look at a couple of sources. Right? And I have a subscription to barchart.com. It's a free subscription. And these are the ones that I look at on a regular basis. If you want a sort of more in-depth look into what the futures market is going to be like, there is in fact a futures specific thing where you can start looking at charts and more fundamental data if that's what it is that you'd like to do. But there's also, this summary. And taking a look at the summary, what it says here, cocoa prices are sharply lower today, with New York cocoa posting a 1 month low. and London posting a 1.5-week low, and signs of weak chocolate demand are uncutting cocoa prices. So according to Bloomberg Intelligence, early estimates for chocolate candy sales this Easter holiday um, are look to be down 5% from last year. So you'll get at least this is what the analysts are saying about why prices are the way they are. I also like to go take a look at this graph from a website called Trading Economics. So it gives you the ability to say, okay, I'm looking here at this is what's happened over the last year. So within the last year, it looks like it's gone from nearly $11,000 a metric ton. We're down at hovering around $3,000 a metric ton, which is pretty remarkable. But now you can take a look at volatility. So in the last 6 months, the last 1 month, the last week, so you get an idea about what the volatility is looking like and what the range is. And this is just really helpful just to sort of give yourself an idea of where cocoa is going. So, right, if we take a look, we don't need to go and look at all of those things, but if we scroll up, what we'll do is cocoa futures eased, so the price is going down, close to the lowest since June of 2023, as market fundamentals remain underpinned by expectations of abundant supply, right, and weak demand, right? So what happens is that the weak demand is really, really an interesting thing to take a look at. It looks like April 16th, we're looking at Q1 grind data for Europe and North America, and the consensus among market participants is the figure should confirm the fragility of demand, reflecting the prolonged impact of high prices throughout 2024 and the consequent adjustment in consumption by the industry. So it looks like prices are going to look weak compared to where they were this time last year. The price is down by more than 50% in the last year. But what you won't be seeing anytime soon, and this is where I'd like to see some additional research and reporting on, is okay, all these big companies have spent a lot of money on cocoa, and they've spent as little as they possibly could. They didn't want to buy too much cocoa at too high a price, right? But they're still working through their supply of expensive cocoa. So we shouldn't expect the cost of derivatives flowing through the supply chain, the price of cocoa butter, the price of liquor, things like that, cocoa powder, to come down quickly, right? Because people are working through their supply of expensive beans. And I don't know if there's any research that's been done to say what is the trailing indicator, what's the lag, how long does it take from the price to go down for the raw ingredient, cocoa beans in this case, and how long it takes for the reduction in price to be shown up in the derivative products that are made from it. We see this in gasoline as well. The price of oil goes up, but when the price of oil comes down, people are working through stocks of extensive product, and so the price of gasoline doesn't come down as the price of oil comes down. It's not a linear relationship, or if it is a linear relationship, it's delayed. Whereas the price of gasoline is going to go up very quickly when the price of oil goes up very quickly. Just the nature of big companies trying to protect profit margins, among other things, in a not highly regulated universe. So keeping on track of what the commodities market is doing, it can provide you some insight into how you should be thinking about how much cocoa you need to purchase, when to purchase the cocoa beans, to talk with your suppliers, see if there are ways to contract to purchase a certain amount of cocoa in a certain period of time for a certain price. All the things that you can do, right, to protect yourself from market shocks. And my thinking about the current price and the increase of oil based upon what the Trump administration has done in Iran and the closing of the Strait of Hormuz and things like that, is that with the price of oil at highs, those prices are going to find themselves, the high prices of oil are going to find themselves into keeping the prices of anything which requires to be shipped anywhere, where I'm shipping from Africa to North America, or whether I'm shipping it from the port of New York to Kansas City, Missouri. All of those things that are going to reflect the high price of oil. And it's going to take a while for, if and when the price of oil comes down, it's going to take a while for those prices to the reduction in price to find their way to the ultimate consumer. So don't expect prices to come down anytime soon for derivative products, given what's happening with the cost of oil. Or if they're coming down, they're going to come down at a much slower rate as shippers and as processors factor in the increased cost of energy into their product line. So that's where we're going to start out. I think it's anybody who is making chocolate from beans, right, who's purchasing, other than the occasional bag here and there, really needs to pay attention to what the price of cocoa is going to be. And with that, what I want to do is I want to go to the next thing. Excuse me. It is cottonwood season here in Arizona, and blizzards of cottonwood seed pods, which are fluffy, sort of look like small snow accumulations. And so I didn't grow up being exposed to cottonwood, and so it turns out I'm slightly allergic to it. But in any event, what I want to do is I want to go to the next point for today's episode, and that is that Toni's Chocolonely released actually quite some time ago their 24-25 annual fair report, and this is the fair report. Actually, it's 2 pages of the fair report, and you're looking at a page from the 2023-2024 fair report and the 2024-2025 fair report. So I've taken the same page, and I'm showing you from 2 different years, right? And what I want to do is point out that there are some mistakes that they've made here. It'll be interesting to see if anybody is watching from Toni's and whether or not they'll fix this. They did it last year without acknowledging that they made a mistake the first time. But let's go take a look at some of the things that I noticed in looking at these 2 reports. So the first one is you'll notice that these things are information dense. There's a lot of color. And the color is designed to, the color and what I would call the design language, the visual vocabulary of the way these pages are put together, are designed to obfuscate. They're designed to make it harder to understand what it is that's going on, right? And so one of the things that you might look at as you're sort of deconstructing these pages is, right, so we've got the way red is used, right, on one page. This is the way red is used. And how is red used on this page? Well, it's a slightly different red, and different things are in red, but how is red used, right? We've got this other color, which is this, I don't know, turquoisey. It's actually a little greener than turquoise color. They have blue rather than turquoise. They've got another color in this year's. They've got this brown color that they're working with. And so we need to think about all the way the colors are used from year to year. And by the way, I say brown, that's because I'm looking at it in a different monitor and the color looks different on the other monitor, right? So number one is go take a look at the way color is used and the way color is used to move our eyes from one part of the page to another part of the page, and then take a look at, right, we're looking at what we've achieved in 2023-24 is in red and it's in blue on this side. This is a deliberate choice, right? This is a deliberate choice, and it makes the pages harder to decode because the colors mean things. Normally, red would mean, this is a bad thing, right? And green would be good, right? But that's not the way colors are used in this report. So it's just really cool. But let's go take a look at a couple of things that we can. So number one, right? The first mistake that we're going to run into is that it says that last year in 2023-2024, that 20,296 farmers were impacted, and that's 2,500 more than last year. So we'd actually have to go to the previous report and find out what number they reported from last year and find out if this math was correct, right? And notice that it's farmers, not farming families. So farmers is head of households, and in Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, a farming family household is going to have between 6 and 8 people on average. And this is according to previous Tony's Chocolate Only reports. They say that the average family, cocoa farming family, has 6 to 8 household members. So when they say farmers, they mean heads of households, right? So the number is at least 100,000 people, if not closer to 150,000 people. Somewhere between 120 and 150,000 people is more like it. So just keep that in mind. So we see that 20,296 farmers were impacted last year. And if we go to this year, it's 32,133 farmers that are impacted. But if we go here, it says this number is 15,355 more than last year. Well, no. 32,133 minus 20,296 is not 15,000, right? It's, oh my gosh, I didn't write this number down. So, let me get my calculator out, right? And let's do the math right in front of you. Let's do the math. So it is 32,133 minus 20,296. And that number is 11,837. All right. So that number is 11,837. So, all right, basic math mistake, right? They are expecting people who looked at this report not to go back to this report. So, hey, Tony's, if anybody from Tony's is watching, fix the math, because this is an easy to detect mistake. It's a really easy to detect mistake, right? And if you so let's go here. If the person who put together this report made this very easy to detect mistake, it says that the entire fact-checking process as a part of publishing it is fundamentally flawed, right? That they couldn't even pick out a mistake, right? And so the designer, it's not necessarily the job of the designer to go, this doesn't make sense to me, right? It's there's somebody in the team who's saying, use these numbers, right? And hey guys, right? If you're going to make a real easy to fact check mistake, what's going on? And can we, right? So, and what that does, because they've made an easy to fact check mistake, does it undermine all of the other numbers that we might find which require math? So I can go take a look. For example, I can go take a look at this. Oh, let me go change this to here so we can see. I can make a look at this 20,296 number just by going back to last year's report, right? And I have all of the reports that Tony's has ever, all the quote unquote fair reports that Tony has ever published downloaded. So I can go and do this. But I want to point out just what challenging it is. All right. Now, right. So this is also something that I fact checked last year, right? This is total amount of premium paid per metric ton, right? So no, in 2023, 2024, they did not pay $2,200 in premium per metric ton. Now, if you went and actually looked at the updated version of the 2023-24 report, you'll find that they changed this. They changed this to indicate, no, we didn't pay $2,000 per metric ton of premium. They changed the language of this, right, to reflect what they didn't do. So again, Tony's, I'm keeping track of these mistakes you're making. You can make all the changes that you want into these documents, but I have an independently downloaded archive of all of your reports, which make it theoretically possible to go and take a look at them. So just simple mistake, 32,000 minus 20,000 is not 15,000, right? And it's not just the farmers impacted, but we need to think about, okay, 32,000 times somewhere between, 5 and 7 other people that are associated with. So let's go take a look at that. All right. So, all right, we look 10 partner co-ops over here. I hope you can see my cursor moving, but it's got 10 partner co-ops over here, and then it's got 19 partner co-ops that are good. So we've gone from, that's almost a 100% increase in 1 year. Seems like a lot, all right? But what does it mean? What does that mean, right? So if we look at this 17,619 metric tons, as opposed to this 26,843 metric tons, what we can say is it's a difference of 9,000 metric tons. And if we divide it by 9 co-ops, that's about 1,000 metric tons per co-op, right? Which seems like an interesting amount, all right? But if we look at this 32,000 farmers number and take it on face value, this 32,000 farmers divided among 19 partner co-ops, right? If we subtract, right, all the math here, we subtract 32,000 and we subtract 20,000 from it, we find out that there are 11,000 new farmers, which means there are roughly 1,300 people in each co-op, right? Which is a good number. We don't know if we're actually sourcing from all of those co-op members, but it's 1,300 members per co-op. But if we take a look at this, it's 1,017, 1,000 metric tons per co-op. If you divide that by 1,315 farmers per co-op, it means that it's 740 kilograms per farmer. Sounds like a lot. It's about 10 bags or something like that. 740 kilograms per farmer. That's a number that we can look at. So we need to figure out if this works, right? But here, let's go take a look. What's some countervailing or counterfactual stuff we might want to look into, right, to figure out if this is the case. So it says that they paid 3,757,268 euros, right? In premiums last year, they paid that to 32,133 farming families. That means they paid an average of 241 euros per farming family over the course of the last year in premiums. So 241, divide that by 365. It's not a whole lot of money. If you divide the 241 euros per family by the average number of family members, 6 or 8, depending on which country you're talking about, okay, well, let's divide by 6. So 240 divided by 6 is roughly 440 euros per family. And you divide that by 365. Well, it's like $3 a month, right? So it's like 10 cents a day. So that's what it means, right? But look at that. It's the biggest thing on the page, right? If you go look at this 3,757,000 euros, it's the number one thing on the page, right? So they want to call your attention to it, right? But if you actually do the math, you can understand what that means, right? So is 10 cents a day, $3 per family member per month for a premium? Is it fair? I don't know the answer that it is. And one of the things that we need to go look, and they're verified it, but I believe on page 221 of this report. So Sophie Jewett of York Cocoa House in the UK sent me some links to things. And it looks like, they paid the farm gate price, right? When cocoa was at $10,000 a ton, they were paying the farm gate price in Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana. And so all of the value add associated with this got captured upstream, right? And is not reflected in these. So I don't think that any of the narrative around, okay, well, I'm going to say I haven't taken a look at how the narrative around the high price of cocoa in the last year is reflected in the numbers in this report elsewhere. And that's something I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a deeper dive into this after the chocolate scorecard is published. But I wanted to give people an idea of how to go look at this report. So another way we can cross-check to see where things are is that last year, what they did is they said 17,619 metric tons of beans sourced. I am going to assume that was across not just for Toni's use, but also for mission allies. So there are 20 mission allies. So the previous year, there were 14 mission allies. Now there are 20 mission allies, and this includes Toni's Chocolonely. as it specifically says, including Toni's down here, right? So they went from 10 partner co-ops to 19 partner co-ops, 50% growth. They went 6 new mission allies to 2 new mission allies. So they went from 20 mission allies to 2022, which is not the same rate of growth, right? But let's go take a look at what that means. So if we go and look at this, right? So let's scroll up here, or let's zoom up here. We'll see that it says 26,843 metric tons of beans sourced by all of the allies, right, of which 14,000 were sourced by Toni's Chocolate only. So what we can do is we can subtract 14,000 from 26,000, right? We get 12,555 metric tons, and we can divide them by 21. So this is Toni's purchased 14,000, right? The other 21 purchased 12,000. So each one of the mission allies purchased approximately 600 metric tons of cocoa in the last year, between 2020. So in 2024, 2025. Now, it's impossible, given the way the numbers are sourced. I'd have to look at the Toni's open chain report from last year in order to figure out, decompose this number of the 17,690 metric tons that Toni sourced, how much of it came from mission allies. Don't know, right? From here, but I need to figure, but we need to do more investigation to figure this out. So these numbers look like a lot: 26,000, 19 partner co-ops, 22 mission allies. But if we take a look at what it means that on average, the mission allies sourced 600 metric tons each of cocoa last year. Each partner co-op was worth about 1,000 metric tons of cocoa last year, 740 kilograms, right, per farmer, assuming even distribution. And that all led up to a total of 241 euros per family paid in premiums last year. Now, and one of the things we don't know, is this just Toni's premiums, or is it Toni's plus fair trade premiums? They're not broken out here. This is total amount of premium paid this season. So I'm going to guess it's every place where Toni's could record any kind of premium that was made, right, shows up in this figure, right? Whether it is the Toni's premium that they pay, right, or the fair trade premium that gets paid. Hard to know. So, and let's go. That's the mission allies thing. Yeah, 800. So if we actually take a look at this figure, last year it was 884 metric tons across all mission allies, and this year it's 600 metric tons across mission allies, not including what Toni's purchased. Right. So these numbers look really, really interesting until you go and do some simple math on the numbers that are played here, that present here. Right. So the average amount of cocoa which is purchased by mission allies have gone down. What else has gone down? Well, 33.22% growth is now, oh my gosh, they don't show how they've grown. I wonder why, right? Could it be that the growth rate has slowed, right? Their gross margin is here. They're not mentioning what their growth margin is. So I will need to go into somewhere else in the annual report to be able to figure out what their growth rate was and their gross margin is. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and no, here it is. It's 20% growth. Oh, here it is, 240 million in revenue. So they went from I took note of this because I figured, so 200.1 million in revenue last year, 240 million in revenue this year, 33% growth last year, 20% growth this year. So it's big here. It's big here. It's smaller here. They want to pay attention to it here. They want to diminish it here, right? This is the reason that they're doing this. The type is big here. The type is small here, right? This is one place where red makes sense as a color choice because here's a flag, right? But we go from 33% growth in 2023-24 to 20% growth in 2024-25. Right, there will be an explanation somewhere else, right? But 99% of the people who look at this are not going to go look at the financials in order to figure this out. So there's a link to the financials pages in the PDF. You go figure out why this is the case. It's the price of cocoa, probably. But a 40% gross margin that went down to a 39% gross margin. So no wonder they're minimizing it. So growth went down, gross margin went down. The percentage, the number of mission ally, new mission ally acquisition went down. Just a couple of points to take a look at. So number one, if we go take a look from 23-24, it says that 100% of our beans are from GPS Mass Farm, and then it says farms 100% GPS mapped against protected areas. That's redundant, right? So 100% of our beans, 100% of our beans. This 100% here is taking up space it doesn't need to take up space. I mean, it's there because either they overlooked the fact that it was redundant, which is quite possible given how much care and attention they appear to take place in other areas, but it could be, we wanted another place where we could just say 100% again, right? And so they said 100% again. When they could have said, all of our beans are EUDR compliant. They said it again, 100% beans are from GPS mapped farms without this 100%, not entirely sure why, but all they had to say, 100% of our beans are EUDR compliant, if that's what they mean, right? So the fact that they dropped this farms are GPS mapped against protected area, and it's not here, I'm wondering, why didn't they include it this year, right? Maybe it's redundant here, but it does make an additional claim about their farms being mapped against protected areas. So this is obvious language about the EUDR, and they're not making the same claim about EUDR compliance here. So pretty crazy when you think about that for me. So let's go take a look at one more thing that I want to talk about. So you'll see that they have this headline here, says 1,544 cases of child labor as part of their CLMRS, right? So they have 20,000 households participating in the CLMRS, though. So there are fewer households than farmers. That sort of makes sense. Not all the farmers would necessarily be a part of the CLMRS. They found 1,544 cases of child engagement in farming activities, which are not allowed under the terms of the CLMRS, and they closed, all right? The child is out of child labor. We don't know what they mean. They're remediated. What does that mean? Does it mean the kid was given a backpack and some clothes and some school books? That could be why they're doing. I mean, are we following all these children to make sure that they're going to school? Don't know the answer to that question, but we see this, we found these cases and we closed these numbers of cases. That is nowhere to be found on this page, right? And here's one reason why I think they might not have done that, right? And that's because if you go take a look under the child labor prevalence rate, what we do is we find that it's 8.3% at all of their partner co-ops and 3.9% at longer term co-ops. And what has happened is that those percentages have gone up, right? So it went from 8.3% to 9%, and from 3.9% to 4%, right? So these numbers are not, so small numbers, lots of space, right? Child labor prevalence rate, it's emphasized differently, but this whole thing here, right, which is about cases found and cases closed, is completely missing from the language on this page, right? And what they've done is they've gone from this relatively small amount of space for their 20,200 to this huge explosion. They want you to pay attention to three numbers here. They want you to pay attention to only three numbers. in the 2026 report, right? Or the 2024 or 2025 report. They want you to pay attention to, let me go over here, 32,133. Boom. They want you to pay attention to 19. Boom. They want you to pay attention to 3,757,268. Boom. Those are the numbers they want you to pay attention to, right? They're big type. Boom. Lots of space devoted to them, right? This cocoa growing households participating in the CLMRS, 33,426. Well, this is 1,000 more than the farmers impacted number. Whereas if we go back to the previous year, the number of households is fewer than the number of farmers impacted, which is a change. And I don't know why that change exists, how it happened, but maybe it's included somewhere in the 200 plus pages that are a part of this report. 200 or so pages. I don't know, there's 200 plus pages. But, right, this is just a comparison of essentially, right, one page, right? So this is one page from the 2023-2024 fair report over here, right? And this is one page from the 2024-2025 fair report over here. I've looked at one page and I found at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I found 9 issues, right? Just from this one report that requires detailed analysis of the rest of the report in order to be able to go figure out what's going on. And I found at least one mathematics mistake. And that mathematics mistake is this 15,000 number. We go from 20,296 to 32,133, and the difference between them is not 15,000, right? It's 11,000 and change, almost 12,000. So I will go into more depth. I will go take a look. I will keep these things. I will go and look at the rest of Toni's report when I get the chocolate scorecard report. But I wanted to go through this. Just it came to my attention. Somebody again, Sophie from York Cocoa Works, sent me something via LinkedIn, and we just took a look at stuff. We've been corresponding in the past over issues related to this, and so it made sense. Oh, let's go take a look. So as it says, like fact checking. I've had a bunch of episodes recently about how do you go about and take a look at what you're being presented to online and how to go analyze it, right? And so one of the things that I'm going to go do is I'm going to keep track on this page, and I'm going to go find out if they update this math, right? So if they update this math, somebody at Toni's is paying attention, but I can guarantee that there will be no mention anywhere on this page that, oops, we made a mistake and we fixed it, and thanks to some people for pointing it out, because we made a mistake and we're interested in being fair and transparent and accurate, right? And that includes pointing out where in fact they made mistakes, right? Because people are going to rely on this. If I'm a fan of Toni's, I don't know that I'm going to go much past this page, but I'm going to cherry pick facts from this page. And I may not look at previous years to check that they've done their math properly. Right? Anyway, part of going and fact checking what it is that you are figuring out, what it is that is being presented to you online. And Toni's is a very, very high visibility. Number one, I am in awe of Toni's ability to go and message around this topic. The single issue company, get rid of illegal labor, specifically child labor in the cocoa, in not only their cocoa supply chain, but in modern slavery. This is what they want to do, right? And they've been able to get a very, very large global following, which buy into them, think they're great chocolate, all these things, but that the people who follow them don't necessarily do the work to figure out, is the information they're being given, right? Is it at least internally consistent? That's the important. It may be accurate, it may not be accurate, but I'm looking for internal consistency. And when I see these differences without explanations, I go, huh, why are they different? Right? And that's the point here. All right. If you, I found the math error in like 15 seconds. I said, oh, this number and this number the difference between them is not 15,000. And I go, well, if that difference is not 15,000, what else is missing? And then, 8 other questions I have just about the data that is presented on this page. So that's a lesson. So that's why. Can you spot the differences? And what I've gone through is how and why are they different, right? Right. And and do the differences. I have an editorial, another typo. I went through and I changed this. I got to go fix that. All right. So on a related note, right, I mentioned that I was not going to take a look at the chocolate scorecard. I'm not going to do the in-depth thing on Toni's until I get the updated chocolate scorecard, but I did get an email from one of the leaders of Be Slavery Free, which is the organization in Australia that oversees the compilation, the surveying and compilation of data. And it's Fuzz Kiddo this morning sent an email, hoping I had a great Easter, right? This is what he looks like after, right, 3 weeks of 12 to 18-hour days of examining surveys from companies. And he makes a couple of claims, right, which I am going to go and touch on briefly here, but I will be taking a look at in the deeper dive. So number one is, so what they want to do is that means 3 weeks of going through what the world's biggest chocolate companies, not just the world's biggest chocolate companies, because they have small to medium-sized enterprises, which they define as anybody processing less than 500 metric tons of cocoa a year. I don't have a problem with that distinction. I think rather than distinguishing between turnover, right, and cocoa process, I think cocoa process is the right way to do it. Right, so it's not just the world's biggest chocolate companies. There are smaller ones as well, and then as retailers, right, are only incidentally chocolate companies because they have chocolate on their shelves, and what they're doing about child labor in the supply chains and working out whether any of it is actually having an impact. So I'm going to go take a look at the scorecard, and I'm going to specifically look at this, whether any of it, which I'm going to be, is what they're doing in their child labor in their supply chains, important, is having an impact. And I suppose what I need to understand what an impact is going to be, because there's a real interesting case about impact. I would recast this in terms of benefit. And so is it having a benefit? And then we can talk, who is it benefiting rather than having an impact? So is it having an impact on improved sales? Yeah, right? So that's really good for the retailers. But I don't know that it necessarily has a benefit to cocoa farmers if it's having an impact at it's important. Language is important. So they triple every thing. They verify against what, right? Their methodology. Are they doing verification against independent third-party sources, and how is that independent third-party verification done? Again, I will go take a look at that based upon what the scorecard talks about. And they talk about 14 independent experts funded by the community refusing to take corporate money. I want to talk about that because is Be Slavery Free transparency reporting about the members of their team? And it turns out I am not entirely sure that they are. So if we go to the Be Slavery Free website and we click on the About, they talk about who their team is and their mission and approach and all this kind of stuff, and who are the members of Be Slavery Free, and who the board and the team are, but they do not report any financial information. So this is they're a nonprofit association. They're apparently registered under a regime in Australia that does not require them to post any financial information, right? So it's impossible to find out anything about, is this €1 million a year business or Australian dollar? Is it? There's no way to know, right, how much money they're actually getting and who is providing it, right? So There's also an overlap. If we go and take a look, excuse me, if we go and take a look at the chocolate scorecard and we look about who their funding partners are and their NGO partners are, there's overlap between Be Slavery Free and the chocolate scorecard. And it's difficult to know if, if an NGO partner is funding Be Slavery Free, right, and Be Slavery Free is funding the scorecard, right, is there any overlap? Now, it doesn't look like any of these NGOs here are chocolate companies, so that's a good thing. But, we've talked about this before. You see this Feriad company here? There's actually, they added it. Oh, no, that's not that they didn't added it, but you can't tell. But down here in the lower left-hand corner, right, it actually, if you click on this link, it takes you back to the same page, right? And so they've got a bunch of work that they need to do in order to, let me find out where I am. They've got a bunch of work to do to make sure that they're actually disclosing the set of relationships. I have Feriad. I want to be able to go to their website and find out who they're about. There are 3 or 4 of these companies where the link goes back to this page. There are some pages where there's no link. So CICND, there's no link. And so this is just editorial oversight. It's something that has been overlooked by a lack of oversight. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago to Fuzz in LinkedIn that, hey, you got to fix this. And then we go down here and Carolyn Kiddo, but who is Carolyn Kiddo and what is her relationship? The executive team. Carolyn Kiddo is with Be Slavery Free. Fuzz Kiddo is with Be Slavery Free. I mean, there's no relationships disclosed. We don't know who is Ruben Bergsma and who does he work for, right? There's no indication of what these relationships are, who the advisory team is, their data integrity and ethics and research team. If we do some research, there's an Australian university that is associated, at least one Australian university that's associated with this project. And I'm guessing that these 3 people, because one of them is an associate professor, right, that at least one of these people is associated with one of the universities that's associated with this in Australia. But, come on, right? If this person is on a faculty, there will be, on the faculty of the university, there will be a faculty profile page, and they should link to that. Right. And now we come down in here, look, this, their expert knowledge scoring team. So Carolyn is running general health category alignment, her husband. Fuzz, a husband, partner, child and forced labor category alignment. He's a member of the executive team, but they don't even click through to Be Slavery Free, right, in their profile. So, right, Anthony Fountain, whose living income and category alignment is at the Voice Network in Europe. Right, it's incorporated in the Netherlands. He's at the Voice Network. But here's an interesting thing that people may not know, is that the Toni Chocolonely Foundation provides 60,000, I think it's 50 to 60,000 euros of ongoing support. There's either a 3 to 5 year commitment of support for Voice Network from the Toni Chocolonely Foundation, right? And guess what? Even though in the annual report of Voice Network says that this is a no strings attached grant. This is no strings attached. And I am not suggesting that there is, in fact, any impropriety here. All I'm noting is that, right, there is an undisclosed funding relationship between the Voice Network, right, and the Chocolate Scorecard, right, through one of the companies, right, a foundation associated with one of the companies that actually ranks at the very top of the list. I'm not suggesting that there's any impropriety. What I'm suggesting is, from a transparency perspective, guys, right, Carolyn and Fuzz and everybody else who's associated with this, you want to disclose this somewhere. Anthony Fountain is at the Voice Network. The Voice Network receives money from Toni Chocolonely Foundation, right? And again, even though it is an unrestricted grant, no strings attached, right? It turns out that the Voice Network receives funding from Toni's Chocolonely, and Anthony is associated with the Voice Network. You should disclose this. I don't know if any of these other, now, The Voice Network is not an NGO partner. Okay, that's true. Voice Network is not an NGO partner, but there is still its relationship. WWF is an NGO partner. They're also a funding partner, right? And if you didn't scroll down all the way to the bottom, you wouldn't necessarily know that. So this is one of the reasons why we need to do this. Claire Harris and Cecile Lachaud apparently are not part of Be Slavery Free. Yay. But I have to go to Be Slavery Free in order to scroll through their list and figure it out. So, I mean, listen, Eduardo Somariba is an internationally renowned expert in cacao and in agroforestry. Apart from Anthony Fountain, it's the only name that I instantly recognize on this list of having to do with anything. But why is Rajan Bhopal an expert in pesticides? And what is Arlene Lopez Sampson? What is her relationship? I mean, do she and Dr. Somariba have a professional connection? I don't know the answer to that question. And this is where I think that a lot of what Be Slavery Free and the Chocolate Scorecard, lack of transparency, undermines their claims to authority in this area. And I would like to encourage them going forward to be much more transparent and much more open about this. We do have a comment from Lynn Lockwood. Lynn is someone who has been involved in talking about Tony's Chocolonely and talking about how companies are reporting about their efforts to eradicate illegal child labor. Again, remember, we talked about Pono Cocoa a couple of weeks ago. Lynn comments, it's been a while, always interesting dive. Didn't know that. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Lynn, so if you could explain, but not surprised. Always my question with these things is who is funding it? Are there any cocoa farmer representatives listed as experts? Oh, that's interesting. Are there any cocoa farmers or cocoa farmer representatives listed as experts? Well, let's go take a look. Right, so traceability. So again, because I do not know the institutional affiliations of any of these people, it is impossible without actually going into, here, let's see, here's this guy. Let's, here's my LinkedIn account. Let's search for this guy. Cancel. I want to go and never mind. So I'm just trying to do this on the fly. It's never a good time, never a good thing to do things on the fly. But what we have is I would need to go and do a LinkedIn search or some other more general search to find out if any of these people are, how they are related. Are they farmers representatives? So I don't know the answer to that question. And it's not clear from anybody here. So there's only one child and forced labor expert. There's only, so Fuzz is in Australia. Is he representing? I don't think. Farmers, perhaps the other child and forced labor expert is, but it's not obvious. So Lynn, it's a great question. And so one of the things I'm going to do as a part of my follow-up for the next episode talking about this is to find out if any of these people is in fact a representatives of cocoa farmers, right? And that's actually an interesting point because this is the chocolate scorecard, not the cocoa scorecard, right? And while there is an overlap between between this, because if we go to the scorecards themselves, let's go to the scorecards themselves, right? So what we can do is we can go take a look at search by company or brand. Let's go take a look at Touton. So Touton is a trader. They're not a chocolate company, right? So they're cocoa trading. So it's not just the chocolate scorecard. It is in fact a cocoa scorecard. Here, let me go and show this. So we're, excuse me. All right. So we search for Touton. They're a cocoa trader. There's a product line. They're a medium and large company, right? Which means they handle over 500 metric tons per year. And what we find is they're not very highly rated in terms of what they're doing. But it's important to understand that this is, in fact, a chocolate scorecard and not a cocoa scorecard, even though there is this blurring of the lines with cocoa traders and what they're doing. So getting back to Lynn and what it is she has to say, I meant the voice funding from Tony's. I do not believe that anything anywhere can change unless cocoa farming communities are themselves involved and representatives. And Lynn, I completely agree with you there. That I have been on record in saying on many occasions in the past that all of these attempts to impose new, essentially, ethics, new values by people in cocoa consuming countries on people in cocoa producing companies, a form of new economic imperialism. And by, again, not having farmer representatives on this is another example of it. So I spent a lot more time on this than I had originally thought I would. So I want to go to a couple of other things that are news associated with this. The first is I have created something called the Chocolate Life Suggestion Box. And this is the research library. Did I get it backwards or did I not? Nope. I got to fix the link. So we have the Chocolate Life Research Library. So what it is that I'm trying to do is I've collected hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of research papers. And what I'm doing is I want to go and see if what I can do is find a way to put this into a searchable database. So for example, I could go here and I could search for the keyword microbial. And then what I'm going to be able to do, it's a little slow because I've got the stream. I can go find all the documents which is associated with microbiology and fermentation. There is a DOI listing on it. So I can go here and I can actually get to the DOI listing. So if you want to, what you can do is you can click on this link and you can go and let me know what you think about it. It's a work in progress. There's some things. The natural language search I broke in the process of doing this. And so I'm using a vibe coding app called Zoe to do this work. It's still in progress. But if this is something that you would like to just go take a look at, that would be great. I would appreciate it. So the Chocolate Life suggestion box is something else I'm working on. Let's go to the homepage of the Chocolate Life. There is a link to it right now. This is something that I've been talking to for some time. And if I click on this link, what's going to happen here is that it is what it says. It's a suggestion box. So you put in a name, you put in an email address, you let me know if you're Chocolate Life member, that's optional. And then what you can do is you can say, are you reporting a bug? You got a feature request, something else you'd like to do, and then you can type something. You have to do a sort of captcha, I'm human, you click submit, and you can respond. So if you're working with a research library and you run across something that doesn't work or something like that, you can submit a report in the suggestion box. I will update the link on this. I'm sorry. I didn't test it to go sure, but these are two new things, news for people who are working on the Chocolate Life and have been a part of working with the Chocolate Life for a time. You don't have to be a member in order to be able to use the suggestion box. And then finally, a couple of quick things. Number one is one of the things that I'm working on is a semantic network around chocolate. So when we talk about types of chocolate, and this is a challenge that we have with many things. So is that what happens is that the way you describe the chocolate, the categories they're miscategories. So people are making category areas so that dark chocolate and milk chocolate and white chocolate are right. So other types of chocolate, aerated chocolate, gianduja chocolate, organic chocolate is organic the same thing as gianduja? The answer is no, right? Organic is a certification. It's not a type of chocolate. And so it is a label that gets applied to chocolate. It's not a type of chocolate. And so is raw chocolate, perhaps, right? But ruby as a type of chocolate belongs up here with, dark and milk, or does it or not, right? So one of the things I'm working on is a semantic network. And what I want to do is I want to use the semantic network to make the research library more effective because it improves the quality of search. So that's one of the things that I'm working on. I don't know if anybody has been following this saga, but the grandson of the founder of Reese's came out in public and said that the new owner of Reese's, the Hershey company, has been destroying the flavor of Reese's peanut butter cups. And then what Hershey's has done is they've folded to public pressure and are going to be, over the course of the next year or so, reintroducing using real chocolate as opposed to compound into the peanut butter cups. Maybe nothing else, but they're going to do it for peanut butter cups. The reason why I wanted to highlight this is because public pressure can change chocolate manufacturers' minds. And this is an example of it. Enough people have written Hershey. Somebody with high enough standing stood up and said, this is a mistake, right? And as a result of that post or that position going viral, enough people have complained to the Hershey company that Hershey is going to be going back to previous formulas with respect to Reese's peanut butter cups, if nothing else. So what I'm going to do is that maybe people have heard this, but 12 metric tons of Kit Kats were stolen. Let me get rid of this. Were stolen before Easter. I don't know what anybody feels about Kit Kats and whether they care, but apparently there's been a lot of theft that's been going on, in Europe, in this kind of stuff. And why do we care? Because it's Kit Kats. Do I care if it's Kit Kats? I don't. Maybe you do. But if you care about Kit Kats, you may want to worry about that. I'm going to be doing, so recant, right? I'm going to be doing an overview of the Cacao of Excellence 2025. We're going to take a look at what that means. And I didn't set this up, and so hopefully I'm in the right place. And so one of the things that I have done, and I'm going to share, let me move this over to my other screen here, is that one of the things I've done is I've used the same LLM that I'm using to develop the suggestion box. Not LLM, it's a compute platform, which is based on top of LLMs. It's called Zoe. One of the things I've done is I used an internal tool called Web Scraper, right, to go to the page where all of the 2025 best 50 for this round of the Cacao of Excellence. And what I've done is I said, go scrape all the base information from the front page, and organize it by award level, by the region, by the company, scrape out the name of the information, and then go click on the View Details page. And so let's quickly go take a look at the View Details page for this. And we find some other information, contact and suppliers, and all this information. And it turns out that there's one of these pages for 50 companies, right? And so what I was able to do is I was able to go write a series of LLM prompts. And what I've done is I've said, in the year 2025, in the year 2525, if man is still alive, all right, for award level silver, for the regional Caribbean, for Trinidad and Tobago, this producer, right? And this is the COEX code. This is the URL of the page that we're looking at, a type of sample. We've gone through and we've been able to capture all the information on both pages and put it into a single spreadsheet, right? Now, it turns out that the underlying page structure for the 2023 awards is different from the 2025. So I can't just say, replicate this script and do it again. And it turns out that, as good as I think I am about writing these prompts now, it turns out that it didn't capture either the roasting temperature or the roasting time. It didn't capture the URL of the flavor reel. So I can, from my, I can go and, oh my gosh, yay, right? I can go and take a look at the flavor wheel, right? Without having to navigate. And I can look at every flavor wheel. And of course, this is a CSV file. So I can put it in Excel, or what I do is I can put it into a database format. Zoe uses DuckDB. I could put the 2023 and the 2025. I could say, use this format and go generate it for previous years, right? Which is what I'm struggling with now. But what would have taken me maybe, 10 to 15 hours of work, right? Tedious work, going page to page to page, putting things into a spreadsheet. I can now I can give the LLM a prompt, I can go away and do some work and come back, and it will have either done it properly, it will have done it insufficiently, there's something else that I need to do. So for example, I don't know why it didn't get the sender organization, the dominating genetics, the local variety name, or the bean size for at least one. It's missing it for 2, 3, 4. Right. So I'm going to have to go through and do a little more work. I could do it manually. Or what I can do is I can say, oh, here are some examples from other pages, and go pick it up. Right. So anyway, so you get the idea. So why is this important? Because one of the things we want to do, one of the things I want to do as a part of the work that I'm doing, is put together a definition of specialty when it comes to specialty chocolate. So like in coffee, a specialty coffee beverage is any beverage which is made from specialty coffee beans. What I'd like the definition of specialty chocolate to be is a specialty chocolate is made with any chocolate which is made from specialty cocoa beans. We don't have the same sort of Q grading and cupping standards that we have in chocolate, in coffee for chocolate. And so one of the things that I want to start with, until we can move to that consensus definition, right? I want to say, well, if you've been designated as a recipient of the heirloom cacao preservation heirloom, right, designation, then you're specialty. If you are been awarded a Cocoa of Excellence, recognized by the Cocoa of Excellence in their top 50 at any point in the past, your specialty. And what we can do is we can use this database and we can compare it among the beans, right? So that are out there and available, and we can expand this going forward. So that's a project that I've been working on. And by the way, if you're out there and you are looking for a place to where you can have an impact on the world of chocolate and cocoa, and become a member of the Chocolate Life and support the work I do with a direct financial contribution to help make it possible for me to devote more time to these kinds of efforts. And so, that's a project that I'm working on. And then finally, I want, before we end, because we're running a little late, got 2 things that are going on. Number one, on Friday, April 10th, so this coming Friday, I'm going to be having a conversation with Sean Eskenazi. And Sean doesn't do a lot of these interviews. He's been a guest, I think, twice before, a Clubhouse guest and a Chocolate Life Live guest, but I haven't had him as a guest in a couple of years. But this month, April, right, represents the 20th anniversary of Sean's first bean buying trips to Mexico and to Venezuela, and I was on those trips, right? And then he purchased cocoa beans and he launched Eskenazi Chocolate the next year in 2007. So Sean is going to be joining me on this Friday, and we're going to be reminiscing about that journey back to 2006, and our meeting before, just less than 6 months, about 6 months earlier in Ecuador in 2005 during the University of Chocolate in 2005, hosted by Pierre Chouard of Vintage Plantations Chocolate now. And we're going to be talking about that. So that's going to be really cool. And then a week from today, Tuesday, April 14th, right, Dustin Cornett, who is the organizer of the Craft Chocolate Challenge, is going to be on, and we are going to be announcing the award winners for the 2026 Craft Chocolate Challenge Season 5 awards this coming Tuesday, a week from today, again, starting at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going to be listing the winners. So Dustin will be here. I will be here. Lila Carvajal, who is a sponsor of the innovation category, is going to be here and is going to be helping us present the awards. And we hope to have either videos or the winners live during the episode so we can talk to them about what's going on. We have a couple of other announcements, so for example, are there any new masters, right, that are joining us? So a master is any company that has won in any category at any level in 3 different years of the awards, not necessarily 3 consecutives. They don't have to be golds. They don't have to be in the same category, but any award in any category in any 3 years. Are there any new masters that are going to be awarded? Are there any first-time winners? So this is my first entrance and I won an award, or there are people who have entered in the past and this is the first time that they've won an award, we're going to be talking about all of those things upcoming. And before I head out, I want to remind everybody that this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, is sponsored by the members of the Chocolate Life. You can go to the homepage of the Chocolate Life. Here it is. Right? You go to the homepage of the Chocolate Life. If you're not a member, you can click join and you can become a member. There's always free membership. There has been from the very beginning, but beginning at as little as $5 a month or $42 a year, you can support the Chocolate Life and all the work that I do, all the episodes of Pod Save Chocolate and everything. And if you do want to support at a higher level at $150 a year and above, it comes with coaching and consulting hours as a part of your membership. And happy to be able to answer any questions. You get to ask the questions. I'm going to answer the questions that are associated with things, and to let everybody know that there is an all-member AMA, and that the all-member AMA is happening on Sunday the 19th. Again, beginning at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Daylight Time. It's a 90-minute. I'm going to be here if you want to call in. If you are a member of the Chocolate Life, even a free member, if you are a member of the Chocolate Life, you can come in and we can have a conversation about anything you want to about chocolate or cocoa. And with that, everybody, I want to say thanks for being here. I'm excited about the next two episodes. Sean, I am utmost respect for what it is that Sean has been doing for the last 20 years. It's hard to imagine 20 years now, over 20 years since we first met. I have the utmost respect for what it is that he's doing and how it is that he's doing it. And then the Craft Chocolate Challenge with Dustin. It's just fabulous set of things. Fabulous next two upcoming episodes. And I hope you understand, right, when I'm doing all these things that I am having a lot of fun. Because if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Until the next time, everybody, ciao.